and welcome to ChapterSkip. I'm Sean.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Mark, and we're bringing you movie reviews with a twist.
And this week we're reviewing the film Bad Country.
Bad Country, or as it's also known, Whiskey Bay, comes to us from the late Chris Brinker, who unfortunately died whilst in post-production of this film at the age of 42.
And this was Brinker's directorial debut.
Although he did also do some producing work on both of the excellent Boondock Saints films, as well as producing this film, Bad Country 2.
The flick was released here in the UK on DVD on the 10th of March.
And the DVD and Blu-ray premiere will hit the States at the end of April, with Germany, Norway, Sweden, Italy and the Netherlands in between March and April.
This 2014 action crime drama movie is set in 1980s Louisiana and it's inspired by true events. And it also stars the awesome Willem Dafoe.
Now, Mark and I talked about him and his accolades last week in our Odd Thomas movie review. If you guys fancy checking that out, then click this link here. Or wait until the link pops up at the end.
Willem Dafoe plays Bud Carter, a no-nonsense detective with a badass moustache.
And one day, whilst Bud is working undercover, posing as a buyer that's interested in making a purchase of gemstones from some burglars, unfortunately, his cover gets blown when a news programme shows a picture of him for all to see. Now,
tempers flare and shots are fired, but Bud is not a man to be messed around with, and he's also a dab hand at hitting bad guys with a shovel.
With the criminals apprehended, it's time for a spot of interrogation. And what with this being Louisiana in the 80s, the interrogation is a bit more extreme than just being given a cup of tea and asked some questions, as Bud isn't afraid of getting his hands dirty when it comes to getting someone to squeal. I'm going to take the lead on this one, Sean.
What? So you're playing bad cop, are you?
Yeah.
But I want to be bad cop. I even made this hot cup of tea to throw over him.
Well, I want to be the bad cop, and I'm going to use a voice like this and call him a slag. Give me that tea.
No. If you're bad cop, I'll be good. So I'm going to use this tea to make him feel at ease, alright?
Fine. Let's go and get some responses to our questioning from the slag.
Alright then, I'm going to use this voice. Right, Joe, we've got some questions to ask you. How do you like your tea? 2 sugars? If you play ball, I'll get you some hobnobs in a minute.
Where were you last week, you little toe rag? Come on, spit it out, you slag. Good boy.
Look, I don't know what you guys are on about, alright?
Joe! You spoiled your tea. I'll make you a fresh one. There you go, Joe. A nice fresh cup of Joe. See what I did there? Because his name's Joe, there's a cup of Joe. It's funny, right? Come on!
Oh, I get it. Give me a right old giggle in me berries, that did. Who said you could laugh? You slag.
What'd you do that for?
I got to bust him round the chops and have a nice cup of Rosie Lee. Oh, best interrogation ever! After the interrogation, Bud crosses paths with a low-life white supremacist criminal named Jesse Wayland,
who is played by Matt Dillon.
Now, when Matt's character popped up onto the screen, I had this really weird feeling that I'd seen him before, and then it clicked. He was in There's Something About Mary, where he played the role of Healy. Now, don't let this confuse you with the type of movie you're watching here, as Dillon plays a completely different kind of character.
Oh, and he also has a badass moustache.
Upon investigating Jesse's home, the cops soon realise that he's more than just your regular thief too, as he seems to have quite a large array of weaponry, and it's not long before Bud concludes that Jesse is in fact a contract killer.
Unfortunately for Jesse, as well as getting arrested and facing a lifetime in prison, which apparently means over 200 years, he also has a baby son that is only a few weeks old, and his wife Lynn, who's played by Amy Smart, doesn't have the money to be able to care for and feed herself and the baby.
Seeing an opportunity, Bud steps in and makes Jesse an offer he cannot refuse, whereby he will get released on bail if he's willing to become an informant and aid the capture of the man behind nearly all of the criminal activity in the area. And that would be a chap named Lou Tan, and he's played by Tom Berenger.
And I'd like to just add this, that he also had a great moustache.
Also in the mix we have the lawyer, Kiersey, who's played by Neil McDonough, who's been in a whole bunch of cool movies, but to my shame, I recognised him from playing Dave in Desperate Housewives.
Anyway, as Jesse is now working for both sides, he gets some inside info on a list. He tells the cops and the FBI of said list that contains 12 names, and good old Detective Bud just happens to be sitting in the #1 spot. Unfortunately, no matter how well you plan ahead, things never quite work out as expected, and soon there's only one thing left to do.
And that's to simply groom your facial hair and go out and kick some ass.
Hey Mark, do you remember 5 years ago? We let Joe get away.
How can I forget? He's the last name on this list. I don't know what I'll do if I ever see that son of a bitch again.
I know the feeling. I wouldn't be playing good cop this time.
Calling all units, calling all units. We've spotted the notorious Joe at the park. Please proceed immediately.
No way!
I know, right? What are the chances of that? We were just talking about him. Let's go.
Been expecting you.
Sean? Sean? Sean, are you alright?
Did we get him, Mark?
I'm afraid not, mate. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you punched the beard right off your face.
A beard? It took me 5 years to grow that beard. The fact that this film was inspired by true events didn't really do that much for me, and it didn't add that extra bit of realism either. But that's not really detrimental to the film because overall it was a fairly enjoyable, although ultimately forgettable flick.
It's a real shame that director Chris Brinker died and never got to do more movies, as I think this flick would have been a really good launchpad onto bigger and better things, as the pacing was decent and he seemed to get the best out of the actors' performances.
This film had a good storyline with some amazing actors playing the roles decent enough. But sadly, no more than that. In my humble opinion, it could have stood out just that fraction more overall.
This wasn't by any stretch a fantastic movie, but it wasn't too bad either. It's not going to make anyone's top 10 movies of all time, so overall I'd have to say that it's an above average picture with some decent performances and a well told plot. It was just missing that something that I can't quite put my finger on. However, if this movie has done one thing to me, it would be in convincing me that I really should go and visit New Orleans sometime, and not just for the scenery, if you catch my drift.
Now, admittedly, for me, the editing in the action scenes could have felt a little bit tighter, and during gunfights, a lot of the so-called professionals couldn't hit a barn door unless the plot called for it. But, despite those faults, this was still a good film. It's not something to shout out about, but at the same time, it wasn't bad either, and it's certainly worth taking the time to give it a viewing.
Thanks for watching this Bad Country movie review. If you enjoyed this review, then please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. That way you'll receive updates on the latest ChapterSkip release. If you'd like to contact us to discuss this movie or any others, you can do this via Facebook, Twitter, or by leaving a comment down below. Links to those sites and more are available in the video description box. And quickly, before we leave you to enjoy the blooper reel, please like this video. Thanks.
Also, also has a badass
He
eyebrow.
also has a bad ass moustache.
Ass moustache. After the interrogation, Bud crosses.
Crush.
Jesse Whelan.
He goes to Crush.
Also in the mix, we have the lawyer, Kearsey, who's played by
Neil Orange Peel.
and didn't add that extra bit of realism, but that's not really detrimental to the film.
Now, it's a real shame that corrector